friends, today I'm back with a Barry Harris video. It's sort of a Barry Harris video for dummies. It's a starting point, it can get very complex. I'm sure you heard about his concept of the 6 diminished scale, and there are lots of videos where he's explaining stuff, but then he's playing a lot all the time and he doesn't say exactly what's happening.
Here's a scale, watch. How you feel it?
And today I want to just have a starting point of understanding his concept of the 6 diminished scale. I'm going to show you how I understand it and how we can already use it to harmonize a melody, but also to use the chords in our improvisations. I harmonize it with some chords, and I'm going to show you exactly how I got to this point of harmonizing the scale like this. So let's think about the C major scale for a start. We can play the C major scale on one string, and we can add an extra note between the G and the A, so we end up with 8 notes instead of 7. And basically that's still the C major scale. We're going to think about this scale as a C major scale, but what we're going to do is we're going to find the diatonic chords of this scale. I'm going to call them diatonic chords because I think many of you know that you can build chords off of a scale. So if you want to build the chords of the C major scale, they would look like this. Right, so we have those chords that stem from the C major scale, and all those chords only contain notes of the C major scale. How did I find those chords? You can play the C major scale and then just skip every second note, and then I have my first chord. I think you might already know this concept, and in this way we can find those chords. But the question is, what happens if we apply the same concept to the 6 diminished scale? So we have the C, we skip the D, we have the E, we skip the F, we have the G, we skip the A flat, and then we have the A. Now we have 4 notes, that is enough to build a chord. So we have C, E, G, A. And that's a C6 chord, right? It's the root, the major third, the 5, and then the 6. And let's continue doing the same idea, starting on the next note of the 6 diminished scale. On the D, we have the D. We have the E that we're skipping, we have the F, we have the G that we're skipping, we have the A flat, we have the A that we're skipping, and we have the B. And then we have, right, we have a diminished arpeggio. It's D, F, A flat, B. But if you continue doing the same exercise, always starting on the next note of the scale, always skipping note, you come up with something that looks like this. The first chord is C, E, G, A. So we have that really stretchy chord, 1, 3, 5, 6. And to make it playable on the guitar, we're going to drop the G to the G. Then we have here the sort of the E shape, if you want, right? It's like this one, just here. But then we have sort of the problem child still here, the A, and we're just going to put it here. And then we still have the same notes, just in another order, and that's okay as well. And if you record yourself as C on your looper, you can hear it better that it's a C6. 5, 1, 3, 6. So this chord is a C6 chord, but it's also an A-7 chord because both chord types have the exact same note. So if I'm playing an A, if I'm playing a C, it's a C6 chord. And so what we can basically do is to take our -7 drop 2 voicings, let's say on the middle 4 strings, and play all the A-7 chords that we know. And then we record ourselves a C on the looper so that we can hear it as a C6 chord. And play the same chords. And like this, we already have 4 voicings with 4 different melody notes. We have the E, we have the G, we have the A, and we have the C. So if we look at our 6 diminished scale like this, we can see, okay, we are already able to harmonize 4 of those chords. And of course you can play the A-7 chord on the upper strings as well. Or even on the lower strings. And that leaves us with the other 4 notes of the scale, because funny enough we have a scale with 8 notes now, and 4 of those notes we're going to harmonize with the -7 shape or the C6 sound, and the other 4 we can very easily harmonize with the same shape. It's a diminished chord, right? So if we go back to our start where we just checked out D, F, A flat and C, I could just like play a diminished chord and just shift it around without thinking too much. And then I would automatically have harmonized all the notes in between the C6. I see it as a G7, right? Because if you play the G in the bass, it's B, F, A flat and D. And you just shift it around like you do with any diminished chord, and then you just fill in the gaps, right? So just, you know, the trick is to remember which note of the scale has a major 6 chord and which one has a diminished chord, and that will come in really handy later on for harmonization. So the C, our root has a 6 chord or an A-7. So automatically the next chord or the next note has to be diminished. The B is harmonized by the diminished. The A is 6, A flat is diminished, G is 6, F is diminished, and so on. And like this, we can harmonize the entire scale. And I was so like always thinking, okay, cool, now I have a harmonized scale, but how am I going to use it? Am I going to just like wait for the moment where I'm going to, you know, play a descending C major scale and then I can play all those chords? Because why did I think that? Because of course every one of those G7 chords, those diminished shapes or chords, they always do resolve to the C6, right? It's always like a little 5-1. So this, let's take this one. It's a G7 again, of course. G7 in C is the 5 going to the C6. Can you hear it? It's like na do, na do, na. Right, it's always the same mechanical movement, and I got it in my head that I have to sort of play it in this way so that every diminished chord needs to resolve, or that this sort of a logic has to be contained when I'm harmonizing a melody. But I learned you don't have to do that. You can just like take a very simple melody that exists only in a major scale, and then you just think about the note that you need to harmonize, and then you just pick your chord. So now I pick a really simple tune, like let's say Frere Schacke, it's C, D, E, C. Right, and instead of just like racking my brain how I could harmonize it, I just like look at this chart and I see, okay, the C, the note C has the C6 chord, so I play the C6 shape. The D has the diminished chord, the G7, so I just play it. And the E has the C6 chord again. So I'm just like, you know, copy and pasting the chords according to the melody note. And then it's like E, F, G. So E is again a C6, diminished, and so on. So like this I can really start just to use this concept, and I think the idea is to know by heart which notes go with which chords in any key. And of course I am asking myself, how can I use it in improvisation? And then the other thing that I had in my head was like, okay, it's 5-1, 5-1, 5-1, and you know the melody is always stronger than the harmony. And since I've been thinking it's a harmonized 5-1, 5-1, I got it into my head that I couldn't just like, you know, use it as a C major scale. You know what I mean? Just like still thinking, even I have this A flat in the scale, I'm just playing a freaking C major scale of a C major chord using this concept. Yeah, sometimes it takes quite a while to understand something. So I'm going to record a C major chord only, then I'm going to find a very little melody, just like maybe on the B string because I know my chords there, and then I'm going to harmonize it with this concept. Let's see what's happening. Now I have to think which chords. Warte mal, stimmt nicht. Nee. Right, and there you have it, because what I was afraid of was now I'm having 2 6 chords. Right, just like in different inversions, but I thought like the same chord would be lame because always trying, you know, to reharmonize stuff, like thinking of dominant chains and stuff. So, but now for now I'm just sticking like to this. I still need to check it out, right? So let's hear how it sounds. Let's try to have a melody with the A flat in it, maybe. One more time. Yeah, and I think this is such a cool concept, and that's where I'm going to start to understand the Barry Harris stuff, what he's doing. And yes, I think the step would be right, just like to really harmonizing the scales in different keys and making it part of our system. And I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more Barry Harris stuff. I would be happy to investigate it a little bit more, and I'll see you next week. Bye!